And then the very last thing when you've done that, I know you guys aren't done yet, but the very last thing is to go to this toolbelt.heroku.com site that I just slacked down. You're going to download this Heroku toolbelt thing, and then you're going to run Heroku login. It's just going to ask you for the login information that you just created. So everything that I just put in Slack, those are the things that I'd like you to walk through. And I'll budget like, I don't know, 5 minutes for that. And if you have any trouble, I'll just walk around.
After calling down tuner deployment,
You can just leave it alone for now. We're not doing anything.
open it yet.
Yeah, you don't have to open it yet. You can, but you don't have to.
It says company name.
Make one up. Maybe you can leave it blank. I don't know.
You can?
Yeah, so we're not doing anything with this tuner repo yet. Just cloning it down so we have
It
it.
says Heroku toolbelt for Mac.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you want to download this thing. You should be able to just click that Heroku Toolbelt for Mac button and open it and install it. If you're wondering what it does, it basically puts something in your command line. So we've done a lot of command line stuff, like Git, that's a command line app. We're installing a Heroku command line app that lets you push stuff up to Heroku. If you have any trouble, please just raise your hand or throw a shoe at me or something. Yeah, you should only need to do Heroku login once. Yeah, no, you should only need to run Heroku login once on your computer forever, and that's it. If you change your password or something, you'll probably need to do it again, but to start off with, you only need to do it once. That does. It sounds like Hadouken. Yeah, one of the guys in the last class asked me what it means, and I have no idea. Nick said he thinks it's like made up Japanese, not actual Japanese, but just made up Japanese.
Someone was saying that it's of hero and haiku, and that the Japaneseness of it is think of the hats and hats.
Interesting. Let's see, what did hero and haiku have to do with software deployment?
Once you log in,
That's it. Just once you've logged in, once you've done this Heroku login thing, it'll ask you for your username and password and stuff, and then you're done. And you just sit and look pretty.
you have to type that in command line, Heroku login.
Say what?
You have to type it in the command line.
Yeah. Anytime you see a dollar sign in front of something, remember that's telling you to type it in the command line. But don't type the dollar sign. Just whatever comes after it.
I don't know why haiku is inspiration, but if you think about the language or the words that are used to generate the names, the unit names, that's all very like haiku.
Oh yeah. I could see that. Never would have thought of that. All right.
Heroku login.
Did you? So in addition to downloading this, it should have like put something on your desktop that you need to double click and install. Did you do that? Okay, start up again in 1 more minute. Mohammed, does it seem to be working? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it always takes a little while. Okay, so I'm going to keep on trucking here. So no need to do this along with me at all because I'm not even going to do anything. I'm just looking at stuff. I'm just going to go into pSQL. Oops, that's the wrong thing. There we go. And so I did rake db create inside Tuner. And as you probably noticed, it makes 2 databases for you. It makes a development database and it makes a test database. Those refer to 2 different environments. When you say different environments, they're sort of like different situations in which an app can run. So if you remember from the RSpec class, whenever we did stuff in RSpec, it would actually affect the database. That's why we have our own separate testing database here, because we want to keep all the testing data separate from the real data. When we deploy this stuff up to Heroku, it's going to create an additional database. It's going to create a production database. So you're going to end up with 3 different environments: production, development, and test. There's always going to be the 3 environments you have. And things are a little bit different from environment to environment, as we'll see in just a little bit. Cool. Mohammed, is everything working back there? Did you try the Heroku login thing? Perfect. Okay, we should all be ready to rock then. So what I would like you guys to do is first let's just make sure this tuner thing works. So go ahead and cd into tuner, this tuner Rails deployment thing. And then we're going to do dictmiss again. You guys remember what dictmiss stands for? No one's offered a better acronym yet, so we're just going with dictmiss. Anyone remember what those stand for, or what the first one is? Yeah?
Drop, create, migrate, and seed.
Yep, drop, create, migrate, seed. So we're going to do all of those. So make sure you have your blue elephant running. Also make sure that you don't have Rails running in another tab. If you do, go ahead and close out of that. You don't want anything to be connected to the database.
I think it's broken after.
That's fine. It doesn't matter where you do it from. But now just make sure you're inside the tuner Rails deployment and go ahead and do rake db drop. Rake dbc is the last one. So that's drop, create, migrate, seed. We're just going to do those in order. If you're getting any errors, let me know. Yeah, Dimitri? Rake db migrate reset. Not quite. So that doesn't actually completely like destroy the database. And just to really start off with a clean slate, I like to do this. Rake db drop, it's not something you would ever do in a production environment because that's a surefire way of making sure all your data gets erased. But for now, when we're switching between like 38 different tuner repos, it's probably a good idea. Or else you're going to get errors. Okay, so I did db migrate, and now I'm going to do db seed. While I'm waiting for that, is anyone getting any errors with these? All good? Cool. All right. So with all that done, I'm going to go ahead and fire up Rails and just make sure this thing's working. It's going to go slow on my computer because I have QuickTime running on here. There we go. Localhost 3000. Oh, there we go. And if you get something like this, then you're in good shape. Is anyone getting an error or anything weird? All good? Okay, cool. So you can go ahead and leave this running. I would say do Command T to create a new tab. You can just leave Rails running in the background. All right, and now you're going to put this thing up on Heroku. So there are two steps to doing this, two different commands. The first one is to type Heroku create. Actually, let's just start off with Heroku create. Just do that for right now. So Heroku create, and then hit return. You should have gotten something like this. So this is creating an app for me called Fierce Basin 7818. If you don't tell it any other name to use, it's going to make up a name for you. In this case, Fierce Basin 7818. They're always kind of like sort of hippie, like haiku-y, like Erica was saying. They're always kind of weird things like this. Murmuring Ocean. Yeah, and you got like cascading waterfall and all sorts of like nice stuff. Cool, so that should have been done. Now we're ready to actually push this up to Heroku. So what you're going to do is type git push Heroku master. And now a whole bunch of stuff is going to happen. You don't have to do anything. It's just going to sort of run in the background. So while it's doing that, I'm going to talk about what all is going on. Well, first off, so it's installing a whole bunch of stuff right here. Can anyone tell me what it's installing? Gems. Yep, so it's running bundle install. Dimitri?
Mine skipped the add code thing.
Skip the what?
If you probably cancel the step where it's supposed to add this
Oh, it didn't do, did you do Heroku create?
I did everything really except that step.
And you're inside the Tuner Rails deployment folder? Yeah, awesome. Cool. So you have to be inside. You have to be inside the same folder as your .git folder and your gem file and everything else. All right. So while it's doing that, what we just did was that git push Heroku master. So Heroku also uses Git. What we're doing right now is we're pushing stuff up to a Git server. So GitHub is the only Git server we've used so far. You can actually run Git, a Git server, on any computer. You guys could run it on your computers if you want. I don't know why you would, but you could. It's also what Heroku uses. So when you do git push Heroku master, you're not pushing to GitHub, you're pushing to something else completely. So anytime you have some sort of an app and you want to put it on Heroku and you want to put it on GitHub, you have to do git push Heroku master and then git push origin master as well. They're two completely separate, unrelated things. They're related only in that they're both using Git. Yeah, Brendan.
I'm getting an error that says Heroku's not Git repository.
Are you inside the Tuner Rails deployment folder? Okay, I'll take a look. No, you're good. I'm gonna fix this so it don't get left behind. Did you do Heroku create?
Yeah, there you go, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else have any errors or? Because if not, well, congratulations, you're on the internet now. The next thing we need to do is actually take a look at it. So you may have already guessed the URL we're going to go to. It's this one right here. It's your appsname.herokuapp.com. But you can type it in, but you don't have to. You can also just do Heroku open, and it'll open it up in Chrome or whatever browser you're using for you. So there it is. You should get a page like this. If you get this thing, then congratulations, you did it right, contrary to all appearances. So one thing to notice is that it took a little while for that page to open. This was actually faster than Heroku usually goes. But it did take a little bit for this page to open. I would say it took like 5 seconds. The reason for that is the way Heroku works. So the way Heroku works, the way it interacts with all of your data, is that you upload stuff to Heroku's server. Then, if a period of half an hour passes where no one is doing anything with your site, or no requests are being made to your site, Heroku actually erases your app from their servers. And then, the next time someone requests something from there, they add it back in. So if I were to wait half an hour and then go back to this, it would probably take like 15 seconds for this page to actually open up, because it's rebuilding my app. It's doing all of these steps that it just did there again and recreating my app. And now you may be thinking like, wow, that is totally Bush League. Why would I ever want to use that? Well, it's just deleting these files. It's not actually deleting your data. So it's not deleting the stuff in your database. If it was, that would be kind of a shame, but it's not doing that. All it's doing is just clearing off these files and no longer running Rails. So your data is still perfectly fine. You can deploy stuff to Heroku with no problem, and your data will be there forever until the world ends or Heroku goes under or something. Your data is going to stay there, and you don't need to worry about it. The only thing it's removing is just these files, and it's no longer running Rails. If you notice you're starting to get a lot of traffic, you're probably you're gonna want to buy a more expensive Heroku plan so that your app doesn't go to sleep, as it's called, and so people don't need to wait for that startup time. But all due respect, you guys probably aren't going to be to that point for at least a little while. Yeah, Erica? Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about that as instructors, and some of us had sort of ethical dilemmas about that, because Heroku's got to make money somehow, and we don't really want to siphon away server space or whatever. But whatever. I'm not gonna. Nah, that's cool. I'm not gonna breathe down anyone's neck. Cool. So congratulations. Now you have a non-functioning app on the internet. So why isn't this functioning? Well, it's because Heroku does do two things when one thing. It only does one thing with the database when you upload an app to Heroku. All it does is rake db create. It does that automatically. It doesn't do anything else. So what comes after db create? Migrate. Yeah, so we have to tell Heroku to migrate the database. The way we're going to do that is Heroku run, then rake db migrate. Heroku run rake db migrate. And if you let that rip, this window keeps opening up. I don't know what that is. But it should start doing it. And there it goes. And you can actually do Heroku run and then any old bash command. So for instance, if I do Heroku run ls, it'll take a second, and that weird thing will pop up. But then it will do an ls, exactly like it would on your computer. And it will show you everything that is on this server, everything that is in your particular nook of the server that we're sending stuff to. Some things don't work that well, like if I wanted to do an ls-a, if I try to do that here, then I get this weird thing. So it doesn't really work very well with things that take arguments, but for some things it works perfectly fine. Okay, so we migrated. Last thing we should do is seed. So you're going to do it the exact same way. Heroku run rake db seed. All right, and with all that done, now you should be able to refresh the page on your app. And there it is. Now you have a tuner that's online that you can share with anyone else. Anyone else can go check out this link and they'll see your tuner. And like just to make sure everything's working fine, I'm even going to sign up with it. So this email thing, it doesn't actually send an email. It's not going to like check the validity of your email address, so you can just make up an email. I don't actually own r.co. That would probably cost a lot of money. Yeah, here we are. So no such thing. I'm going to try editing his name to Nosage McThingington. That should work fine. And there we go, Nosage McThingington. So congratulations, you have your first Rails app deployed online. Yay! It actually really is pretty cool, and I feel like that's really easy, which is nice. One thing is bothering me though, and that is that I don't actually want my app to be called Fierce Basin 7818. I would rather it be called like Tuner Robin or something. Actually, I'm going to see, first off, I want to see if I can just call it Tuner. Probably not. I will bet you there's already a tuner on Heroku that some WDI made a while ago. Let's see, is there anything here? Well, there's something there, but it's non-functioning. That's a shame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename my Heroku app to something else. I'm going to do Heroku apps:rename, and then just the name I want. I'm going to do, I think I can do Tuner Robin. I did that this morning, but I think I deleted it. We'll find out. Well, first off, I want to see what happens if I just do a name that already exists. Yeah, name is already taken. Okay, so I'm not going to do tuner. I'm going to do tuner-robin. I'm going to try with an underscore here. If you use an underscore, you're going to get this message saying that your name must start with a letter and can only contain lowercase letters, numbers, and dashes. So no underscores here. You have to use dashes. So tuner_robin won't work, but tuner-robin should be just fine. We'll find out. All right, cool. So now if I go back to Fierce Basin, whatever it was, that doesn't work anymore. It gives me no such app. But if I go to tunerrobin.herokuapp.com, I should be back in business. And there it is. You just click the sign up button over here, and then you just make up an account. Doesn't matter what your account is called. You can actually skip this step altogether, this apps rename thing, by doing, when you first do Heroku create, you just do Heroku create, and then the name of your app. Name of app. And then you don't need to do this renaming thing. You can rename it however many times you want, but this just sort of cuts down one extra command you have to do. Cool, so you have your app up on Heroku. Questions so far? Well, okay, you have our app up on Heroku. You're going to work on your app later on. Questions so far? Mm-hmm.
So, you can push additional changes to Heroku, and that would work fine.
Yeah, we'll show that in just a second. Actually, that's probably what everyone's thinking, so we'll just do that now. I am going to, let's see. So now I'm going to push up some sort of a change to Heroku. What I'm going to do right now is a totally superficial change. I'm just going to like add a piece of text under the screen, but this is the same kind of change you would do, same kind of process you would do for any sort of a change. There we go. Okay, I'm going to go to, let's see, I'll just put something in the views. I'll just say like, Heroku is wiggity swank. Cool, so I made some great drastic changes to my code. Now I'm going to do git add and git commit the way I would have before. So plain old git add, git commit, made drastic changes. And now to get this up on Heroku, I'm just going to do git push Heroku master again. And this should go faster. It shouldn't need to reinstall all of my gems because they're already installed on there. You can see that went a lot faster. It's going to do a couple other things. Almost done. All right, cool. And now if I refresh this page, I should see Heroku Swiggity Swank on here. So you can see it's taking a little while now. That's just because I just forced my server to restart. But there it is. Heroku is Swiggity Swank. So that's all there is to pushing stuff up to Heroku. Again, that doesn't actually push anything up to GitHub. GitHub is different. So if I wanted to push this change up to GitHub, I would do git push origin master. I'm not going to do that because I don't actually want to do that to this repo. But that's all I would do, same as usual. Any questions about that? Dimitri? No. We just left it running here in case you want to like have it on localhost at the same time, which is perfectly fine. So here I have it on localhost. Here I have it on Heroku. Both basically the exact same thing. No, you don't need to have it running. I just added there. Other questions? Is this harder or easier than you'd expect? I hope easier. Someone's going to say harder, so I actually don't want you guys to answer that question. It's easier. Yes, it is. Go team. All right. And so the process would be the same if you did a migration. So this is something important to note. You can't just do Heroku run rake db drop anymore. You can't do Heroku run rake db drop. So what you've been doing so far is, or what I've seen people doing so far, which is fine when you're just on your own computer, is going into your migrations and being like, nah, I actually don't want it to be called album. I want it to be called playlist or something. And you just go back and edit a migration. You can't do that anymore. That's because when you push this stuff up to Heroku, what's going to happen is it's going to check in your schema.rb for this number. This number, you will notice, matches, let's see, it ends in 807. It matches this number down here. Those are the same number. So what it's doing is it's checking to see which migrations came after this number. Anything before that number, it's going to consider to have already run. Anything after that number, it's going to consider to have not run yet. So when you do Heroku run rakedb migrate, it's only going to do the migrations after this one. So if you go back here and change something in here, it's not going to pick up that migration. The way we would have solved that up until now is by doing rakedb drop, which would completely obliterate everything and let us restart from scratch. But you can't do that with Heroku. That's a security thing. Heroku doesn't want people to be able to go in and just drop databases because you could potentially really screw up your app doing that. So they put in sort of a security measure to make sure you can't do that. Instead, if you do want to change your database, what you're going to have to do is Rails G migration, change album to playlist. You're going to have to generate a migration. That'll take a minute.
So G just stands for generate?
Yeah, G stands for generate.
I use G, go to the commands, and it didn't work. And you generate and it didn't work. I don't know why.
That's weird. I got nothing. Devise may have its own like built-in generate thing that you have to use, in which case you would have to write it out, but I don't really know. But yeah, G is for generate, S is for server, C is for console. Cool. So you do something like this. It should show up here now. And then you would break db migrate down here and then push it up to the server. So I know there are a lot of steps involved here, but this is also all in this section right here. The entire end of the lesson plan is just sort of a cheat sheet of the different processes you use to put stuff on Heroku and change stuff. So what we're talking about right here, well, changing your app, that's what we just went over, and changing your migrations, that's what I'm doing right here. So I ran that migration. This number in my schema should have updated. So now it should end in, let's see, 540. And sure enough, it does. So now I put this on Heroku. I would git add, git commit, added migration, git push Heroku master. And then when this is done, I'm not sure, but I predict when I go to my app, it's going to yell at me. Let's see. Okay. There we go. I think this won't work. Maybe it will. I'm not entirely sure. Actually, it probably will. Yeah. Well, still, it hasn't run my migration yet, so I would still need to go back in and do Heroku run break db migrate, and now I should see that changed album to playlist or something show up here. There we go. Yep. So when you want to change your database, you have to do it by generating a migration. You can't just go back and change your migration files, your old migration files. If you do that, it's not going to make it up to Heroku, and you're going to be sad. So you can't do that anymore. Any questions about that? All right. Cool. Let's see. The last thing I want to do before just giving you, well, actually not. You know what? Let's take a pause right now. And until, let's see, it's 3:08. I'd like to give you guys until 3:25 to A, take a break, and B, just play around with this thing on Heroku. Just play around with it. See what happens. See what you can do with it. Try to break stuff, more specifically. See what happens when you break things. That said, it may not be that easy to break because this repo that I had you guys clone down is, again, it's like the synthesis of everything we've done so far. It's like the final tuner, so it has all sorts of error handling and stuff in it. But try just breaking stuff anyway and see what happens. Okay? So we'll do that until 3:25, so that's 15 minutes. I'll make a timer for that.